provinces, cities, and municipalities on the inclusion po of newly developed projects in the annual investment programs of the LGUs. So based po ito sa kanilang devolution transition plans. We did this po in order to assess the readiness of our LGUs in monitoring devolved projects in view of the implementation of EO 138 or the full devolution of certain functions of the executive branch to local governance. And ipapakita po natin later yung details po regarding this indicator, which will be counted po as a premium in our scoring. So, and we are lucky po since we are joined today by DBM Region 4A. So, maybe later they can help us to provide clarifications po if ever meron questions or clarifications ang ating mga kasamang LGUs regarding this indicator. Finally, as a means to assess the capability of the Lpmcs to adapt to a changing socioeconomic environment, specifically in terms of our increasing digital dependence, we added an indicator po to check if our Lpmcs have ongoing efforts to develop and operationalize an automated system for project monitoring and reporting. So basically, ito po yung gist ng ating mga ginawang enhancements on the guidelines. So on the next slide po. So based po sa ating guidelines, our evaluation committee will be composed of the technical staff of DBM, DILG, NEDA, OPTMS, and 3 RDC private sector representatives. So the evaluation committee will review po yung mga documentary requirements submitted by the participating Lpmc sa ating search. And the evaluation committee will identify and conduct validation of the shortlisted nominees based on the criteria sa ating guidelines. And finally, we'll deliberate with regards sa final selection ng ating awardees. The chairmanship will rotate every year among DBM, NEDA, and DILG. And for the next year's search, NEDA will chair the committee. So again, the 2023 search will assess the performance of Lpmcs for the year 2020. Next slide po. So ito po yung mga awards na binibigay natin in search in order to recognize yung ating mga top performing Lpmcs. First, we have the Outstanding Lpmc Award. This is given to Lpmcs with the highest score per category. So we have 4 categories. Yun po yung provincial, city, municipal 1st to 3rd class, and municipal 4th to 6th class. So our award na binibigay sa ating outstanding Lpmcs are gift certificates and plaque of recognition. Meanwhile, for the runner-ups, we will give them a certificate of merit, and then a certificate of appreciation will be given to the nominees. Next slide po. So the next award is our Hall of Fame Award. So we give a bronze marker to the Lpmcs that received the Outstanding Lpmc Award for 3 consecutive years. And then the Hall of Famer Lpmc will be annually assessed in order to check if it has sustained their Lpmc activities. So our basis po to check if they sustained their activities is if they obtained a minimum score of 90 points for the provinces and then 80 points for cities and municipalities. The awardee will be given a plaque of recognition, and in case the required score were not met by the Hall of Famer Lpmcs, they will join again in the regular category in the next year's search, in the succeeding year's search. And there will be given a certificate of merit for participating. So here is the scoring by criteria. For 2023, kindly refer po to the last column. And for the second column, we provided lang po as reference for comparison yung ating scoring last year for 2020. So we look at 4 aspects po. First, yung ating organization and training for a total of 25 points. And then second is planning for 15 points. And then quarterly reports for 25 points and operation and implementation for 35 points for a total of 100 points. So aside from this, we also give premium points. So a total of 13 po for provincial PMCs will be given based on a set of indicators that we will discuss later, and 11 premium points for cities and municipalities. So let's now discuss po yung ating detailed scoring by criteria. Yeah. So in the next few slides po, we will discuss the required documents for criteria, which are also detailed in the Annex B of the guidelines. This is on pages 8 to 13, and the scoring per criteria po can be found in Annex C of our guidelines in pages 14 to 18. So you may access this presentation material po through our meeting folder, and the link po is provided in our chat box, and yung ating mismong enhanced guidelines was also uploaded in our meeting folder for your reference. On the criteria on organization for the provincial category, our required documents po for organization are two. We have the Lpmc executive order and the matrix of functionality. So the first one, executive order, we will check po yung EO on the organization of the provincial PMC. We will also check po yung mga executive orders ng mga organized and active city and municipal PMCs of the province. Lastly, the matrix on the functionality of the Lpmcs. Ito po yung bago po nating requirement for the 2023 search. So, i-discuss po natin ito sa next slide. Pero for the scoring po, based po ito sa proportion ng mga active Lpmcs na meron pong na-submit na executive order. And then, kukuhanin po natin yung proportion nito sa total number of LGUs doon sa province. So, based po dito sa ating point system, if all LGUs po in the province have organized Lpmcs, they will be able to get a total score of 15 points for this indicator. And then 12 points po if they have 76 to 99% active Lpmcs within the province, 8 points if 51 to 75% active Lpmcs, and 4 points if they have 1 to 50% active Lpmcs within the province. So next slide po. So here is the template po that we mentioned. So this is for the monitoring of our functional Lpmcs per province, which is the additional requirement po sa ating 2023 search. For reference, this is also provided in the Annex G of our guidelines in page 20. So we have a total of 7 columns. Isa-isahin po natin. So the first column po, ito lang po yung ipaprovide lang po dito yung list ng mga Lpmcs doon sa per province. And then on the second column po, i-indicate lang po per Lpmc yung year na na-organize po yung Lpmc. And then on the third, i-indicate lang po yung number na resolution or EO doon sa pagkaka-organize ng kanilang Lpmc. And then ito pong column 4, ito po ay checklist. So, i-indicate lang po if Y, if yes, and N, if no, if nakapag-attend po ng training on monitoring and evaluation po yung ating respective Lpmcs on the year that is being evaluated. So, for 2023 po, ang covered po na trainings attended is for the year 2022. On column 5 po is ito po yung duly approved annual work and financial plan. So, yes or no rin po ito if they have duly approved annual WFP. On column 6, ito po ay checklist on the submission of RPMES forms 1, 5, 6, and 7. So, i-indicate lang din po if may submission sila. Finally, on column 7, ito po yung submission ng copies of minutes and attendance sheets ng Lpmc meetings ng Lpmc. So, i-check lang po isa-isa per Lpmc ng bawat provincial. And then, this form po should be prepared and signed by the Secretary of the Lpmc and should be approved and signed by the Chairperson of the PMC. So, next slide po. Sorry, i-mention ko rin po pala, may we inform everyone that as announced po during the second quarter RPMC, as announced po during the second quarter RPMC meeting last May 5, yung submission po nitong accomplished matrices per province will start in the third quarter RPMC meeting this year. So that's in August po. So yung submission po ng matrix on functionality will be included in the quarterly presentation po ng accomplishment reports sa mga provinces. Okay po, next po. So this is for the indicator on training for the provincial category. For trainings conducted, ito po yung first sub-indicator, our required documents, our attendance sheet, program or activity design, certificate or appreciation for speakers, and photo documentation. So we have a total of 4 required documents. So kindly take note po that the submitted documents should satisfy po yung mga requirements and details as specified in the Annex B of our guidelines. That is in page 18 to 13 po of our guidelines. So if all 4 required documents po are submitted for each training conducted, the province po will receive the maximum score for this indicator, which is 7 points, and then 4 points for one training and 0 if not. In case the requirements are incomplete po, the Lpmc will only receive a partial point po for this. So if only 2 of the documents po plus the certificate of appreciation for speakers po yung na-submit ng province, they will only receive po 75% of the corresponding score for the indicator. And if any one document naman po plus the certificate of the appreciation po for the resource speaker yung na-submit nila, they will receive naman po 50% of the corresponding score. And if only the certificate of the corresponding score po was submitted, they will receive 25% of the corresponding score. So in order to receive at least a partial score, the Lpmc should be able to provide a certificate of appreciation or any certification signed by the Lpmc chairperson for the conducted M&E trainings. So for the next sub-indicator, which is on the kindly back po. So the second sub-indicator is the training attended. So our required documents here are certificates of training attended, and then we added 2 additional documentary requirements. Those are certification of trainings attended from 2017 to 2022 and a report on trainings attended for the year being evaluated, so for 2022.
Sorry, technical difficulty lang po, medyo nawala lang po yung audio ni Miss Jit. Miss Jit pa, test na.
Hello, audio check po.
Ayan, sige, okay na. Thank you.
Okay, siguro po mag-off po ako ng camera para po conserve yung ating bandwidth. Thank you po. So, to continue, we have a total of 3 required documents for training attended na sub-indicator. So, yung ating scoring for this is based on the submission of these documents and then based on the number of trainings attended. So, if more than 2 trainings po yung na-attendan ng ating Lpmc for 2022, they will get a score of 3. And if 2 trainings naman po ay 2 points. And then 1 point po if 1 training attended. And if none ay 0 po. So next po. This is for the city and municipal category. On the first criteria pa rin po on organization and training. So wala naman pong revisions po on this criteria for the city and municipal. So the same pa rin po yung ating required documents. On organization, our required document is the Lpmc Executive Order. The scoring po will be based on whether the Lpmc is composed of the complete mandatory members. So if complete po yung kanilang mandatory members, ay mabibigyan po sila ng 15 points. And if incomplete naman po yung mandatory members ay they will only be given 8 points. And if not organized, meaning wala po silang naipasa na executive order ay 0 po. On the second sub-indicator, ito po yung kanilang M&E training attended. So ang ating required document for this ay certificates of training attended by the Lpmc. So on our scoring, if they were able to attend more than one training, they will receive 10 points and 6 points if one training and 0 if not. So next po. So ito lang po yung ating basis ng composition ng Lpmc. So based po ito sa DILG Memoranda Circular 2004-78 and 2019-188. So based po dito, ang ating mandatory members ay a total of 7. So 1 DILG representative or officer assigned in the locality, 1 representative of NGOs or private organizations, 1 representative of NGO or private organizations that are members in the Local Development Council, and 4 PMC members appointed by the LCE among the 5 nominees of the LBC. So, next slide po. On our next criteria, ito naman po yung planning. So, for this criteria, ay meron po tayong a total of 15 points. For this po, ang ating required documents ay tatlo.
Wala na, gano'n na lang.
The first one po is yung ating copy of approved work and financial plan. Second po yung ating desk and field monitoring plan, following po yung ating prescribed template in the Annex E and Annex F in our guidelines. Finally, yung ating RPMES Form 1 with proof of transmittal to the Provincial Project Monitoring Committee for cities and municipalities, and then for provinces, proof of transmittal to the RPMC. So this will be the basis po to check yung timeliness ng submission ng ating mga LPMCs. So ang ating deadline for submission for the RPMES Form 1 is this should be within the first quarter of the year being evaluated. So a partial score of 2 points will be given if the RPMES Form 1 was submitted beyond the deadline. So after the first quarter of 2022, ma-receive na lang po is a partial point of 2. So on the scoring po, if all 3 documents were completely submitted, they will receive 15 points. If any 2 of the required documents, they will receive 10 points. And if any 1 of the documents, they will receive 5 points. So next po. So ito lang po yung ating template for the desk monitoring plan. This is also provided sa ating guidelines. So this should be prepared and signed by the Secretary of the PMC and approved and signed by the Chairperson of the PMC. So next po. So ito naman po yung ating template for the field monitoring plan. It is also part ng ating annex sa ating guidelines. So again, this should be prepared and signed by the Secretary of the PMC, and it should also be approved and signed by the Chairperson of the PMC. So next po. For the third criterion on quarterly reports for provincial category, our required documents po are copies of RPMES Forms 5 and 6 submitted to the RPMC. This is for provinces po. So ang timeline of submission is 1 month after each quarter of the year being evaluated. So shown on the screen po yung ating timeline of submission of quarterly reports. So para po makakuha ng full points sa ating indicator na ito is dapat nakapag-submit po tayo ng quarterly reports before this deadline. So together with the Forms 5 and 6, the proof of transmittal of the RPMES Forms 5 and 6 should also be submitted. So for complete submission of these requirements for 4 quarters, the Lpmc will receive a total of 20 points and 15 points if only for 3 quarters, 10 points for 2 quarters, and 5 for 1 quarter. and 0 if none. So for this year, we will start giving po partial score para po sa submission ng incomplete documents. So for this indicator, if any one document, that means either one of the RPMES Form 5 or RPMES Form 6 ang ating na-submit, along with the transmittal, 50% lang po of the original points will be obtained for the indicator. So for example po, if they submitted RPMES Form 5 lang po, walang RPMES Form 6 for 1 quarter, so 5 points po dapat yung marireceive nila, pero since kulang, 50% lang po ng 5 points or 2.5 yung mabibigay sa kanilang score for that indicator. Okay po, so next po. So this one naman po, the same indicator but for cities and municipalities. So we have the same required documents, RPMES Forms 5 and 6, pero yung ating proof of transmittal for cities and municipalities is to the Provincial Project Monitoring Committee. So the same din po, the RPMES forms should be submitted within the specified timelines. So as shown on the screen. So if all two documents were submitted on time, and if 4 quarters po yung na-provide na forms ng ating Lpmcs, they will receive a total of 25 points. 20 points if for 3 quarters, 15 points for 2 quarters, and 10 points for 1 quarter. So again, we included here po a point system for incomplete submission of documents. So the same with the provincial category po, if one document lang po yung na-provide ng ating Lpmc, if either one lang po ng Form 5 or ng Form 6, together with the transmittal letter, ay 50% of the original points lang din po yung makukuha ng ating Lpmc. Next slide po. On our second sub-indicator for quarterly reports, ito yung ating reports in RPMC meetings. So ito po ay for provincial category. Ito ay binavalidate po ng RPMC Secretariat if the provinces reported po during our quarterly RPMC meetings. So if they reported their accomplishment po for 4 quarterly meetings ng RPMC, they will receive a total of 5 points. And for 3 quarterly meetings, 3.75. For 2 quarterly meetings, 2.5 and 1.25 if only for 1 meeting. And if they did not report in any RPMC meeting, ay wala po sila makukuha score. So next po. So our next na criterion po, ito po yung fourth on the operation and implementation. So ito po ang total score na pwedeng makuha is 35 points. So on the first indicator, ito po yung quarterly meetings for cities and municipal category and provincial category. So the same po yung ating requirements for all 3 categories. Ang ating requirements ay highlights of meetings, attendance sheets, or certificate of attendance signed by the Lpmc secretary, and the photo documentation. So we have a total of 3 documentary requirements for this indicator. So for the scoring po, if complete po yung submission nitong tatlong documents, and they submitted this for 4 quarters, for 4 quarterly meeting ng Lpmc, they will receive a total of 10 points. For 3 quarters, they will receive 7.5 points, 5 points for 2 quarters, and 2.5 for 1 quarter, 0 if not. Again, we included a point system for submission of incomplete requirements. So if any 2 documents from the 3 required documents po ay 67% of the original points that can be obtained based on the criteria. And if any one po ay 33% ng original points that can be obtained based on the criteria. So for example, they only submitted highlights of meeting, and then for one meeting ito, kukuhanin lang po natin yung 33% ng 2.5 points na dapat ay makukuha nila if they submitted all 3 required documents. So next po. So ito naman po yung ating second sub-indicator for operation and implementation on field inspection. So we will evaluate this po in terms of 2 sub-indicators. First po yung in terms of number of projects, and second po is in terms of percentage of projects inspected based on the total number of projects programmed in the field monitoring plan. So unahin po natin yung sa number of projects for the provincial category. So para po dito, ang ating requirements ay 3. First, yung ating accomplished or PMES Form 7, yung attendance sheet or certificate of attendance signed by the Lpmc secretary, and lastly, yung photo documentation. So if the 3 documentary requirements are complete and submitted for the projects, ito po yung point system. So for more than 35 projects na na-inspect po natin, so yung mga projects covered po pala dito ay yung mga naka-program po sa ating field monitoring plan. So yun na po yung i-consider sa number of projects. So if more than 35 projects po na nasa field monitoring plan, yung ating nagawan ng field inspection and complete yung documents, they will receive 15 points. If 25 to 35 projects, they will receive 10 points. If 5, they will receive, if 24 projects, they will receive 5 points. And if less than 24 projects lang po yung nagawa nila ng field inspection ay 0 po. So wala silang score. So dito po, katulad sa previous indicators, we also added a point system for submission of incomplete requirements. So if any 2 of the documents na na-mention, plus the approved field monitoring plan were submitted, 75 points po ng original score na pwedeng makuha yung pwedeng ibigay sa ating Lpmc. And if any 1 document na po out of the 3 required documents along with the approved field monitoring plan ay 50% po of the original score. So again, we would like to highlight na yung ating covered projects for this indicator ay yung mga naka-program po under the field monitoring plan. So next po. So this one naman po, the same naman po, pero for cities and municipalities. We have the same documentary requirements. 3 po. First, yung RPMES Form 7, the attendance sheet or the certificate of attendance, and then the photo documentation. Again, kailangan po ay complete itong 3 para makakuha po sila ng full points doon sa ating point system. So, ang ating point system po is based on the number of projects na nagawan po ng Lpmc ng field inspection na nakasama po sa kanilang field monitoring plan. So if more than 24 projects po ang kanilang nagawa ng field inspection activity, ay meron po silang 15 points. 10 points po if they conducted field inspection for 13 to 24 projects, 5 points if they conducted field inspection for 12 projects. And if less than 12 projects po, yung nagawa nila ng field inspection ay 0 po yung kanilang makukuha. So again, meron din po tayong point system for submission of incomplete requirements. The same po doon sa point system sa provinces. So next po. So for this second sub-indicator naman po, for the provincial category, we still have the same documentary requirements. 3 po, yung ating RPMES Form 7, yung mga attendance sheet, and yung photo documentation. So yung difference lang po for this sub-indicator is we look at the proportion po ng mga projects na nasa field monitoring plan na nagawan po na nagawan po ng field inspection activity. So dito po, ang tinitingnan po natin is yung proportion based doon sa total number of projects programmed in the field monitoring plan. So if they were able to conduct field inspection activities for a total of 76 to 100% of projects that are included in their field monitoring plan, they will receive 10 points. 6 points po if 51 to 75% of the projects included in their field monitoring plan. 4 points po if 1 to 50% and 0 if none. So similar po sa ating first sub-indicator ay meron din pong point system for incomplete requirements. And the same din po yung computation. So next slide po. So for cities and municipalities, the same lang din po yung documentary requirements. And then the same din po yung scoring for the provincial category. Same po yung ating interval on proportion per score level. So this is our last slide for the regular criteria. On the next slide po ay we will look at the premium points po, yung mga indicators po that we will be giving premium points po. So for the provincial category, we have the first indicator na bibigyan po natin ng premium. So ito po yung pag-conduct ng problem-solving session. So yung ating required document po dito ay tatlo. First, yung ating accomplished RPMES Form 8. Second is the attendance sheet or the certificate of attendance signed by the Lpmc secretary. And third is the photo documentation ng PSS that was conducted. So our scoring is based on the number of the PSS.
Ayan, sige. Ayun. Thank you.
Hello, thank you po, Sir Kevin. Okay, so to continue po ang ating scoring po for the problem-solving session na premium points is based on the number of PSS na nakonduct po ng Lpmc. So first, 3 points po if more than 2 PSS, 2 points if 2 PSS, and 1 if 1 PSS conducted and with complete documentary requirements. So for this po, since premium po siya, hindi po tayo magbibigay ng partial score for incomplete requirements. So next po. So ito pong slide na to, pinapakita po dito yung mga new indicators na binibigyan po natin ng premium starting in the 2023 search. So una po yung ating automated project monitoring system. So dito po ang ating required document ay photo documentation po ng kanilang operational or ng kanilang ongoing
Sige, Miss G. Sorry po, medyo unstable lang po yung internet namin dito sa office. Medyo dalawa po kasi yung meeting namin na sabay. Sige, Miss G, patest ulit.
Hello? Audio check po.
Ayan, sige. Okay,
Thank you
thank
po,
you.
Sir. So to continue po. So we look po at the photo documentation for our documentary requirement in the automated project monitoring system na new indicator for premium points. So the maximum score for this indicator po is 4 points if ang ating Lpmc ay meron ng operational na automated project monitoring system. So if ongoing pa lang po yung kanilang pag-develop nitong automated or online project monitoring system ay they will receive 2 points. And if no ongoing efforts or wala pa pong existing na system online ay 0 po. So that's for our first premium na bago for this year. So for the second one po, yung ating monitoring of newly developed projects. Ang ating required documents po dito ay ang kanilang annual investment program or yung kanilang supplemental investment program and yung kanilang development transition plan. So ang titingnan po natin dito is yung bilang po ng mga newly developed projects na nakasama sa devolution transition plan na na-include po nila sa kanilang annual investment program, or if hindi man po nakasama sa kanilang AIP, yung mga na-include sa kanilang supplemental investment program. So, based po sa number ng mga newly devolved projects included in AIP or SIP, yung ating scoring. So, if 76 to 100% na mga newly devolved projects from the DTP were included in our AIP or SIP, ay meron silang 4 points. If 51 to 75%, ay meron silang 3 points. And if 26 to 50%, meron silang 2 points. And 1 point for 1 to 25% of the DTP projects na na-include sa AIP or SIP. So the last point na ating indicator for premium ay yung percentage of functional LPMCs that join to total versus the total number of the functional LPMCs in the province. So titingnan po natin yung proportion ng functional LPMCs na nag-join sa search versus doon sa total number of functional LPMCs sa province. So ang basis po natin dito ay yung matrix on functionality ng LPMCs. So ang mabibigyan lang po ng premium point po para sa indicator nito ay isang probinsya, which is yung merong pinakamataas na proportion na nag-join sa search. So 2 points po yung ibibigay po natin doon sa province with the highest proportion po na nag-join. So, next slide po. So, ito naman po ay ang ating premium points for the city or municipal category. So, for the first one, this is the same po sa probinsya, ay problem-solving session po. So, the same po sa provincial category yung ating documentary requirements. So, the first one is the accomplished RPMES Form 8, then yung ating attendance sheet or yung certificate of attendance signed by the Lpmc secretary, and lastly, yung ating photo documentation. So again, yung scoring po is based on the number of PSS conducted. So 3 points if more than 2 PSS, 2 points if 2 PSS, and 1 if 1 PSS. So next slide po. So ito naman po yung ating dalawa na additional indicator na bigyan ng premium for cities and municipalities. The same po ito sa pinresent natin for the provinces. So, yung ating documentary requirements, same lang po, photo documentation. And yung scoring is the same po. So, 4 points if meron na silang operational na automated project monitoring system, and 2 points if they have an ongoing development ng system for automated project monitoring. 0 if none. For the third one, yung ating monitoring of newly developed projects, same din po yung ating tinitingnan na documentary requirement. So we look at AIP or SIP and the DTP of the LGUs. So ganun din po ang ating scoring based on the number of newly developed projects from the DTP na isama po sa AIP or SIP. The same po yung scoring for if 76 to 100% yung naisama sa AIP or SIP, 3 points if 51 to 75%, 2 points if 26 to 50%, and 1 point if 1 to 25%. So next po. So yun po. Detailed scoring. Hello, sorry. Okay na po. Thank you. So yung ating, yun na po yung ating last slide for detailed scoring by criteria. So to summarize po, for our provinces, we have a total of 100 points plus 13 premium points sa ating mga new indicators. And for cities and municipalities, we have a total of 111 points na maximum score na pwedeng makuha ng ating mga LPMCs, which include yung ating premium indicator. So we will move on na po sa ating selection process. So this is found in Annex A po na ating guidelines sa page 6. So for our call for nomination, all Calabar Zone LGUs are encouraged to join the search. The interested LGUs must accomplish and submit the electronic copy of the search survey form along with the certified true, correct, and complete supporting documents to the RPMC Secretariat through email. at pmed@calabarzon.meda.gov.ph on or before the prescribed deadline on February 17, 2023. So along with the documentary requirements, LPMCs must submit a certification that the supporting documents submitted are true, correct, and complete, and this should be signed by the chairperson of the LPMC. The submitted documents within the deadline will be submitted within the deadline will be the basis of the evaluation committee for the shortlisting of nominees. If shortlisted, nominees will be requested to submit the hard copy of the required documents for the validation of the nominees. So please take note po na only the documents in the electronic submission of the documentary requirements that were submitted within the deadline will be given the full points based on the criteria. So any additional documents po that will be submitted through the physical copies po will only receive 50% po of the score that can be originally obtained from the criteria. So the physical copy of the documents shall be mailed to the NEDA Region 4A office at Barangay Milagrosa, Calamba City, Laguna. So for reference po, kindly refer to Annex B in pages 8 to 13 of the guidelines for the minimum documentary requirements for the search. So next po. The documents submitted by the LPMCs within the deadline will be reviewed by the evaluation committee from February 21 to 28 based on the tentative timeline for the search and will be the basis for the shortlisting, which will be finalized by the EVALCOM on March 7, 2023. The LPMC nominee must meet the minimum points in order to be shortlisted for the search. So for provinces po, yung ating minimum score ay 70 points. For cities and municipalities ay 60 points naman po to be shortlisted. So the Secretariat will recommend the shortlisted nominees for the validation ng ating evaluation committee. Hello? Audio check po. Okay, thank you po. So to continue po on the validation of shortlisted nominees, validation meetings po will be conducted by the evaluation committee and the secretariat together with the shortlisted nominees. So if necessary po, magko-conduct din po tayo ng on-site validations. So we would like to reiterate po that the evaluation committee expects that the supporting documents submitted during the shortlisting process are complete, true, and correct. So supporting documents po submitted beyond the prescribed deadline, which is during the call for nomination, or presented only during the validation activity will be given 50% of the points that can be obtained for the criteria. And the evaluation committee will rank po our nominees based on the search scoring by criteria and the validated requirements po during the validation meeting. So next po. So based on the results po of our validation, the Secretariat will present the final list of nominees to the Evaluation Committee, and the Evaluation Committee will review the results and recommend our final awardees. The chairperson po will present the final list of awardees to the Regional Project Monitoring Committee for endorsement to the RDC RACA. Next po. So this is our timeline po for the 2023 SOLPMC. We are now at the orientation on the enhanced SOLPMC guidelines. So the call for the nomination will be on January 17 to 20. So please expect po that the committee will be sending the call for nomination during this period next year. So kindly take note din po on the timeline for the submission of the accomplished survey forms. So that is from February 14 to February 17, 2023. And then after this po, the Secretariat will process the survey forms from February 21 to February 28. And then the Evaluation Committee will meet on March 7 for the shortlisting of nominees. And then based on the shortlisted nominees, the evaluation committee will validate the shortlisted nominees on March 21 to 24. And then on April 4, this will be the finalization of our awardees. And then the final awardees will be endorsed to the RDC through RACA in May 2023. And then the awarding ceremony will be held during the second quarter full council meeting of the RDC on June next year. So that's all po for our enhanced guidelines for the search for outstanding local project monitoring. Salamat po.
Thank you, Ms. G. So, yun po yung ating, again, the enhanced guidelines. Pero siguro po before we move forward to the open forum and the photo opportunity, siguro po we take a 5-minute break para po, CR break, para lang po ma-gather din po natin yung thoughts natin, ano po yung mga gusto nating itanong, and ma-process po natin yung information na binigay ni Ms. Jid kasi medyo mahaba nga po yun and marami. So, 5-minute break at 10:17. So, balik na lang po tayo after 5 minutes. And we also have noted naman po yung inyong mga questions dun sa chat, and we have included it in our matrix para ma-address po natin yung mga tanong. Ano po? So again, 5-minute break starting now. Thank you po. Okay, good morning po ulit sa ating lahat. Our time is up. So, ito yung ating short break for health break for our online orientation today. So, again, good morning po ulit sa ating lahat. So, before we proceed po dun sa ating open forum, may I request everyone to open their cameras para po capture natin yung moment, short picture taking po ng ating present participants. So doon po sa able, magbukas ng kanilang mga camera, pabukas na lang po so we can take the photo. Sige po. Miss Jit, sinong kukuha ng picture natin?
Sir Kevin, sige po. I-facilitate ko po yung ating screen capture. So,
Sige
hintayin
po.
lang po natin na makapag-turn on ng cameras ng ating mga kasama. So, we have, i-check lang po natin. So, may I request po to stop po yung screen sharing para makita yung ating gallery. Okay, thank you po. We have a total of 14 frames. So, please bear with us po as we facilitate yung ating group photo. So, let's assume po nakasama po tayo per frame na kina-capture. So if ready na po tayo, hintayin lang din po natin yung other participants. Let's check po. Okay po, last call po for our participants to turn on their cameras.
Miss, okay na ba yun sa akin?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay po yung video po. Thank you, sir. Okay po, last call po. We will take the photo in 3, 2, 1. So I will start now po. So smile po. 1, 2, 3. For the second frame. 1, 2, 3. Kindly hold our smile lang po. 1, 2, 3. On the fourth frame. 1, 2, 3. On the fifth frame, loading lang po tayo. Okay, 1, 2, 3. On the sixth frame, loading lang din po. Medyo marami lang po yung ating participants. 1, 2, 3. On the seventh frame. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay po. On the 8th frame. On the next po. On the next po. Next po. 1, 2, 3. Next po. 1, 2, 3. Next po. 1, 2, 3. And yung ating final frame. 1, 2, 3. Okay po, that's it for our photo op. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jid. So again, thank you for participating to everyone. So now, we move on to the next part of our orientation, of course, is the open forum. So just before we start the open forum, a few house rules para lang po mas ma-moderate natin yung pag-flow ng pong ating discussion. So our house rules, may we encourage the concerned LGU or local project monitoring committee to press or raise the hand button or send a message through the Zoom chat box to be acknowledged by the moderator. Or pagka-raisehan po, magpa-first come first serve basis po tayo. So doon po natin susunod-sunod yung pag-allow. Tatawagin po kung sino yung unang magsasalita. And please mute your mic when not speaking or not acknowledged by the moderator. And due to time constraints, we may limit the number of questions to be accommodated during the open forum. For questions that may not be addressed during the open forum, pwede nyo naman pong i-email ang Lpmc Secretariat through the pmed@calabarzon.neda.gov.ph. So ilalagay po namin yung nakita nyo pong email on the screen, ilalagay din namin sa chat box para madali nyo po makopy-paste. And the participants are requested to wait for their turn to be acknowledged before they raise their questions or comments. And due to the volume of participants, so looking at our participants, we are already 335 strong. So ang dami po natin So due to our volume, participants who will raise their questions or concerns on microphone will be prioritized over questions sent through the chat box. So, yun lang po yung ating kumbaga hierarchy. Unahin po natin yung gustong mga magsalita. And of course, yung mga magre-raise ng kanilang hands for the questions. So, ayan po. Let's start po our Q&A to call on the participants raising their hands. So, pwede na po tayo mag-raise ng hands dun sa mga participants that have questions. And kami naman po at the Secretariat, kung medyo mahina nga po yung internet or mas comfortable po kayo na i-type na lang yung inyong question, just type it through the chat box and we will put it in our question matrix para po ma-address namin yung inyong mga tanong. So sige po, we are now opening the floor for the questions. So ayan po, again, first po, dun sa ating province. From Cavite Lpmc. Sige po, go ahead po. What's your question?
Hello po, good morning po.
Good morning, ma'am. Loud and clear po. Go ahead po.
Yes po. Ang question po namin dun po sa criteria na organization and training. So dito po kasi yung required documents ay yung certificates of training attended, certification of trainings attended from 2017 to 2022, at saka po yung report on training attended. So yung una po, meron po bang template for the report on training attended? And yun po ba ay from 2017 to 2022? Tapos po ay, kailan po ba yung submission po ng matrix on functionality of Lpmcs? And kung kasama po ba yung certificate ng 2017 to 2022 na trainings? Yun po. Thank you.
Ito po, Miss Lit, ikaw ba yan? Sige po. Ayan. Thank you, Miss Lit, from Cavite. Sige po, isa-isahin natin sagutin yung questions. Sige. Miss Jid, are you ready to answer the questions ni Miss Lit? After po pala ni Miss Lit, next po nating nag-raise ng hand is PCCI Batangas. So, Sir Raul, paantay lang po. Sagutin po muna natin yung questions ni Miss Lit from Cavite. Sige, Jid, go ahead.
Hello, thank you po for your question, ma'am. So on the first question po is on the training attended. So if I recall it correctly po, yung tanong is if meron po tayong template na pinaprovide on the report on training attended. So for this one po, ang ating requirement lamang po is kailangan meron i-present po doon sa ating report on training attended yung highlights ng kanilang training na na-attend. So walang specific format na nakalagay sa ating guidelines. So as long as mai-provide yung title po ng training attended, yung date conducted yung training, yung venue po, and then na-explain po doon yung highlights ng na-attend na training. And then finally, if signed po ito by the
Miss Jid, sorry na wala lang yung audio mo saglit. Yung sa signatures, paulit. Sige, Jid, patry ulit. Wala pa yung audio.
Hello? Audio siya po?
Ayan. Go ahead.
Okay. So, yun po. So, to continue po doon sa ating question regarding sa template on the report on training attended. So, wala po tayong specific format or template as long as pinapakita po niya yung title of the training attended. And nandun po yung highlights ng training and my date, and then signed po by the chairperson, it will be accepted po by the evaluation committee. And yung ating coverage for the trainings na kailangan mag-submit po tayo ng report on training attended is for the year being evaluated. So for 2023, this is yung covered po is for 2022 na mga trainings attended. So yung mga attended trainings in 2022, yun po yung sasubmitan po natin ng report on training attended. So yung isa pong question is yung sa certification of trainings attended from 2017 to 2022. So kasama po siya sa ating requirement and isasubmit siya for the next year search. So para po dito, meron po tayong template for this na pwedeng i-follow po ng ating Lpmc. So ito po ay on Annex H po ng ating guidelines sa page 23. So para po dito, kailangan po ay approved din po and signed by the chairperson of the Lpmc. And then on the other one po, yung question on the matrix on functionality, yung submission po. As part po ng mga agreements po ng evaluation committee for the selection process during the 2022 search, ang naging agreement po is we will start po yung submission ng matrix on functionality for the Lpmcs per province during the third quarter RPMC meeting po this year. So in preparation po sa pag-start po na include po siya for the 2023 search. So yun po yung ating start po for the submission of the matrix on functionality. So this year na po siya start. So I think yun po yung tatlong question ni ma'am. If may I ask po if na-cover ko po yung concerns nila, ma'am?
Ma'am, clarify ko lang po. So
Apa.
ang ating submission is magiging third quarter and fourth quarter for this year. Tama
Yes,
po ba?
ma'am. Third and fourth po tayo mag-start. I-include po natin siya during the quarterly accomplishment report po ng provinces. So hopefully po ay ma-reflect na po doon yung initial results po ng ating monitoring ng mga functional Lpmcs.
So same din po, 1 month after the report, yung quarter, after the quarter. So same din po yung date ng submission. Thank you po.
For the matrix, ma'am? Sorry po? Is
Yes
this
po,
for
di ba?
the matrix?
Sa third quarter po. So that would be October. Tama po ba? Thank you.
Bali po, ma'am, ang ating start na report is as of August 2022, yung ating next RPMC meeting. So by August po yung deadline of the first report on the matrix po on functional Lpmcs. Did I answer po your question, ma'am?
August po ang nangyari.
Bali po yung i-report po natin sa August,
Sa August,
is yung
second quarter. Tama po ba?
yes po. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Ms.
ma'am.
Jean. Thank you, Ms. Let. Okay na naman po, Ms. Let. Answered na po ba ang inyong lahat ng
Yes po,
queries?
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Let. So, thank you po from Province of Cavite. So, yung po ating na-observe na next na nag-raise ng hand is si Sir Raul Mercado from PCCI Batangas. Sir, sige po, go ahead. You may ask your question.
Hello, good morning. Salamat. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Doon sa project monitoring, doon sa pinaka-discuss na slide kanina lang, nakalagay doon, ang minomonitor sa mga project monitoring ay yung the number of projects monitored. Tama ba?
Yes, sir. Tama po.
Number of projects monitored, yung number of field inspection done. Meron bang component ang evaluation ng mga candidates or nominees for awards ng compliance or not compliance but conformance to the project management for the project contract between the project proponent and the contractor? Wala akong nakitang measurement. Kasi kung minomonitor natin yung number of field inspection, what about the quality of the field inspection? What about the total alignment between the contractual agreement and yung actual execution ng project?
Sir, I may. Jid, ako na yung magsagot.
Okay, sir. Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that question. Yung sa sa monitor po natin on the part of the RPMC and likewise with the Lpmcs, we look at on the not really on the contractual obligations of both parties. Kasi it appears that it would be too detailed na pati yung kanilang what we are looking here is on the only at the physical and the financial performance of the project. Yung pong ganong issue, it would only appear in the project monitoring, in our project monitoring na i-raise nyo kung may mga issues na tayo. Pero on the details, on say yung kapal ng karsada is na comply, it should be part of the physical reporting na sinasabi na like 90% of the road is complete. It is understood that it is in conformance with the existing building codes sa DPWH guidelines and likewise with the contracts. But to monitor each part of the contract is hindi po namin medyo mahirap po 'yan to look at. Even we at the regional and even at the national, we have the arm's length trust with the implementing unit, with the agency na namomonitor po yun to that detail.
So how do we address those issues? At anong venue me speaking for and behalf as a concerned citizen, how does the government agency like you and the DILG and the DPWH resolve the issues of non-conformance to the contractual agreement?
Sige sir. Ang sample niyan is usually yung technical specifications ng project. Like say you are part of PCCI trans private sector kayo, then during your LPMC meeting, nag-project inspection, pumunta kayo sa isang karsada, then nakita agad natin nakatatapos pa lang ng karsada, say nakatapos ng 1 month or a portion of it katapos na ng 1 month ay may scaling na, kita na agad natin na may labas na kaagad yung mga kunting bato sa kahit katatapos ng na konkreto. Those issues can be raised in your LPMC meeting na project issue to kasi then if you cannot resolve it at your level, particularly if the project is a national government implemented, like being implemented by the district office and by the DA, then you can raise it to the RPMC. But all these technical yung mga contractual obligations, pag may mga issues tayo, you can raise it as a project issue. But not to the point na every time na may per reporting ay magre-report tayo on the compliance.
Okay. So ang nakikita ko lang na consequence nito pagka ganun ang mode of resolution, it will take time. Definitely it will take time before ang ating objective kasi rito yung immediately yung concept of doing the right things all the time, first time all the time,
first time doing the right
first time
thing
all the time
at the right
the first instance, it should be perfect, it should always be in conformance with the agreement. Yun ang ating konsepto. And therefore if it will be resolved on a later date, medyo mahirap on the side ng mga beneficiaries, yung intended beneficiaries, kasi it will be, again, ultimately the country will be suffering.
Project delayed, benefits denied.
At saka yung kung hindi natapos ang tulay dahil kasi for the main reason na walang resolution, the ultimate who will suffer will be the country or the province, di ba? So, yun lang naman ang concern namin as a private citizen,
Yes, sir. Kaya nga po yung gusto namin din dito, yung LPMC may participation ang CSOs natin para during the monitoring ng mga projects or even dun sa even na hindi during monitoring may nakita ka hindi magandang ginagawa sa project na you can raise it at the local PMC within you. Pero kung hindi pa rin nila, minsan kasi may mga dinadala din po sa region na nasabi na sa LPMC, nasabi na sa concerned local government unit pero wala pa rin silang ginagawa. Or kung may ginawa man sila ay medyo hindi ganoon ka effective kasi minsan national government agency ang nag-implement niyan na you can raise it to the RPMC po sa amin. Then rest assured that we will act on this. Kung hindi namin kaya, we will inform you that we will report it to the higher authorities sa national. Pero ang nga po namin dito is, yung sabi nyo is that ang gusto namin, malaki yung role ng LPMCs kasi at the earliest level, dapat at ma-resolve at your own level yung problema. Makita agad, ma-resolve at your own level. Pero kung hindi kaya, immediately raise it to the next level.
Okay.
Okay po.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you.
Basta mag-email lang kayo sa amin, address it to the RPMC chair, then we will look at it. Kahit anonymous yan, minsan tinitingnan din namin.
Okay.
Pina-validate din namin.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sir Walter, and thank you, Sir Raul. So susugan ko lang din po, kaya nga din po talagang i-encourage natin yung LGUs na to activate and to fully functionalize yung kanilang LPMCs para nga po, tama, si Sir Walter and si Sir Raul na at the earliest level or at the local level, talagang ma-resolve na natin yung issue and no need to escalate. And again, we are local project monitoring committees. Hindi po tayo andito para pumuna ng mali sa mga project, but we are here to facilitate and assist on how we can efficiently implement our project. So, ayun po. Thank you, Sir Walter. Thank you, Sir Raul. So, next po naman natin na nag-raise ng hand is from the LGU Pililia. So, sir, from Pililia, Laguna, go ahead po. What's your question, sir?
Hello. Magandang,
go ahead, sir. Loud and clear po.
Okay. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Engineer Daryl Ricardo po, MPDC ng Bayan ng Pililia. Tanong ko lang po yung doon sa composition ng LPMC. Di ba po ang member ay DILG representative, pangalawa ay representative ng NGO, PO, saka yung pangatlo, representative ng NGO na member ng Local Development Council. Saka yung pang-apat po, member na appointed by LCE among 5 nominees of Local Development Council. Ang tanong ko po, doon sa member na inonominate ng LCE, kailangan po ba regular member ng Local Development Council or yung pwede yung mga sectoral committee member?
Thank you, sir, for the question. Ms. Jean, would you like to respond?
Okay po. Thank you po for the question. So regarding this po, siguro may I forward the question po sa ating mga kasama from DILG, if you could provide a clarification since baka mas meron po silang background on doon sa specific po, doon sa LCE nominees na pwedeng i-count po for the mandatory members po ng ating LPMC.
Sige, thank you, Ms. Jid. Siguro po hingan niya natin ng feedback po. For, Sir Darrell?
Yes po.
Sige po, go ahead, sir, if you could answer the question.
Okay. Ano nga pong question?
Sir Kevin, good morning po. Sir, yung clarify ko lang po yung question. Yung question niyo po is yung regarding dun sa 5 LDC nominees po na pipiliin po ng LCE.
Opo.
Ano pong question dun, sir? Gawang as far as ano naman po, eligibility po, basta po siya is member ng LDCs and ano po siya, para pong nominated po siya ng LDC to be member ng LPMC po, dun lang po pipili si LCE na pwedeng i-appoint.
Ibig sabihin po ba, pipili lang ang Local Development Council ng nominees o ang pipiliin natin ay mga member ng Local Development Council na maging member ng ano natin ng local project monitoring committee?
Yung LDC po, sir, ang mag-nominate po sa pagpipilian po ng LCEs.
So hindi po kailangan na member ng Local Development Council ang magiging member
din
ng
po.
Member din.
Member po nila ang nominate nila and pagpipilian po ng LCEs.
Sir, ang tanong ko ngayon, pwede bang ang member na isasali namin sa LPMC ay mga sectoral member o yung regular member talaga? Kasi iba yung sectoral member po sa regular member ng MDC. Usually kasi doon sa regular member, karamihan doon ay yung congressman, mga barangay captain, Pero doon sa mga sectoral po ay mga technical working group namin ang mga member naman.
Ang ano ko lang po, clarify ko lang po dun sir is kung ano po ba siya identify technically as member ng LDC. Gawang wala naman pong limitation kung ano yung ano po nila, designation. Basta po identified sila as member ng LDC, pwede po silang i-nominate. Kahit ano pa po yung function nila within LDC, basta member po sila.
Sige po, kasi yung inaano ko po yung mga core technical working group. So ibig sabihin, kung member sila doon sa Local Development Council, pwede para silang i-nominate. Ano po?
Yes
Tama
po,
po ba?
regardless po ng function, and kaya po ino-nominate siya ng LDC is gawang iba-iba naman po ang composition ng LDC per LGUs. Gaya po nung sa inyo, may sectoral po kayo, ibig sabihin may specialized technical po kayo na nag-a-address sa iba't ibang areas ng LDC. Ayun po, pwede pong mag-nominate ang LDC ng 5 for selection po ng LCEs.
Okay po.
Ang ano lang naman po, criteria sir, is member po ng LDC.
Okay po. Thank you
Wala
po.
po tayong limitation sa designation or function po nila within LDC.
Sige po sir, noted po. Okay,
Okay
na po.
po. Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Darrell. So, ayun po, na-clarify naman po natin yung concern dun sa ating nominees ng pipiliin ng ating local chief executive. So, next po na nag-raise ng hand, yung pong ating PPDO Rizal. Yung mic. Like, sobrang hina po. Sige po. Miss Jid, naririnig mo ba sila, ma'am? Medyo
Hindi,
mahina yan.
Sir Kevin.
Ayan, mahina nga yung audio. Ma'am, nakita ko naman pong may mga questions kayo dito sa ating list. Sorry ma'am ha, mukhang may technical difficulty sa side po ninyo. Talagang mahina yung audio. Sige po, we will just read na lang po yung inyong questions later. Or kung meron pa po kayong questions na gustong idagdag, pa-type na lang po dun sa ating chat box. Medyo mukhang problematic po yung inyong audio. Sige po. Thank you po from Rizal. Siguro po para din ma-continue natin yung provinces. Tanungin ko na rin po yung ating other provinces if they have questions. So siguro po next natin ay Laguna. Laguna province po. May questions po ba? Sige po. Hearing none from Laguna province. Nagtanong na po ang Cavite. Rizal po nakapaglista na. We ask Laguna. So, question?
Hello po, good morning po.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead po. Ma'am, may gusto pong i-clarify ang province of Batangas.
Sir, ang itatanong lang namin is regarding po doon sa submission po ng organized Lpmcs. Kasi di po ba sa province, ang required po natin is yung executive order plus yung matrix of functionality. So ang concern lang po namin, paano po yung magiging scoring niya? Halimbawa po na organized po yung Lpmc, pero with respect po dun sa functionality, halimbawa dun sa submission at dun sa requirement ng mga forms and yung nandun po sa matrix of functionality, hindi po siya consistent dun sa kung ilan yung, kumbaga organized lang sila sir, pero upon our monitoring of the Lpmcs, hindi pa sila halimbawa nakakagawa ng mga work and financial plan or yung sa kanilang RPMES form. So paano po yung magiging scoring niya sir?
Sige ma'am, to summarize lang po, basically ang concern po natin is although organized yung Lpmc, nakalista siya dun sa ating matrix, kaso hindi po siya fully functional, and how do we score this? So sige po, Miss Jid, pasagot po si ma'am.
Thank you po. So ito po kasi ay ating bagong requirement, yung ating matrix on functionality. So as a background po, in response po ito sa ating current, yung ating na-observe na gap sa ating low participation rate ng mga LGU sa ating search. So, as part po ng new required document po for the organization of LPMCs per province, we need po to check if the LPMCs with the submitted executive orders, imamatch po natin siya doon sa status of functionalities based doon sa kanila, sa isasubmit ng provinces na matrix on functionality. So, if the LPMC po ay meron pong naisabit na EO pero based dun sa matrix on functionality ay ma-assess po ng evaluation committee ay hindi pa po sila ganun ka-functional or ka-active. So, yun po yung magiging final parang basis po natin to check kung ilan po talaga yung i-regard natin as active LPMC, and then doon po tayo magka-count doon sa number ng active LPMCs, and then yun po yung basis natin doon sa final scoring for the organization criteria po.
So, ma'am, ibig sabihin po, kung hindi po siya mag-match dun sa EO, at saka po yung functionality niya, hindi po siya makakount.
Yes po, ma'am. So, for an LPMC po na ma-count as one po, kailangan po both meron siyang EO, and then kailangan ay based sa matrix and functionality ay maklasify din siya as active. So if meron lang po siyang EO pero based sa matrix and functionality ay hindi po siya functional doon sa checklist na nakalagay din sa ating matrix, ay hindi po siya counted as one LPMC na active. So kailangan niya po masatisfy yung dalawang requirement po na yon, yung ating matrix and then yung ating EO.
Ma'am, additional pa, dun sa ating matrix of functionality, so lahat nung yung titingnan doon na criteria, dapat po meron sila to count as functional. So, dapat may work and financial plan, work and monitoring plan, plus lahat ng forms, then plus the minutes of the meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Since ito po yung basis po natin para ma-classify or ma-consider po na yung ating LPMC, nagpa-function po talaga and active po siya sa kanilang monitoring activities sa level po nila. So since ito nga pong ating enhancement, ginawa po natin siya para ma-incentivize yung mga LPMCs po natin na mag-increase ng kanilang project monitoring activities. So para po eventually ay mas ma-encourage po sila and ma-improve yung project monitoring at the city and municipal levels.
Tapos ma'am, so yung isa na lang ma'am, yung pong ma'am, submission nila ng mga, halimbawa, yung pong mga planning documents, since ngayon lang din po sila magiging aware na kailangan nila yung isubmit, okay lang po na hindi siya submitted sa amin within the quarter. So pwede pong, kasi di po ba magsasubmit kami ng matrix of functionality by third quarter of the RPMC? Kahit during those time pa lang po sila mag-submit, makakount din po siya.
So since ito po ay pilot pa lang din po natin for this indicator, so dun sa ating template, hindi naman po specified na kailangan yung mga chine-check natin, for example, dun sa kanilang forms ay natin specify po na should be submitted within the deadline. So specified lang po ito dun sa ating regular criteria na within the deadline po. So as long as they were able to submit po within the covered period po for 2022, we can indicate yes po.
Okay po ma'am. Sige po. Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jid. So, okay na po ba ang Batangas? Nasagot na po lahat ng questions?
Yes po. Thank you po.
Sige po. So, to our last province po, let's ask Quezon Province if they have clarifications.
Hello po.
Sige po. Go ahead po, ma'am.
Hello po, Quezon PAPSI.
Sige, ma'am. Go ahead po.
Tungkol din po sa memberships, may limitations po ba tayo sa mga from the private sector na members ng LPMC, yung mga NGOs or POs, na kasi po with the increased number of projects na we have to monitor from 25 to 35, medyo mabigat na rin po para sa kung kulang ang aming NGOs, NPOs. Kaya nag-increase kami ng teams para to be able to cover all these projects. Pero for every team kasi, lagi kami may representation ang private sector, ang NGOs. Considering na ang geographical location ng mga projects napakalalayo dahil Quezon po ito, na na may mga projects na may mga monitoring na nagagawa in 2 days time, especially the island municipalities. Yun po ang aking kasi parang mabigat na rin para sa amin sa Quezon dahil nga sa laki at ang lalayo ng distances ng mga projects. Kinakailangan namin magdagdag ng mga NGOs or POs para makatulong kasi lahat po ng teams ay merong kasamang private sector, from the private sector. Yun po, ang tanong ko kung may limitation yan.
Hello po. Sir Kevin, can I take this question po ni Ma'am Flor?
Sige po, Sir Darrell. Go ahead po.
Ma'am Flor, regarding po ito doon sa PPMC composition po ng Province of Quezon.
Opo.
Regarding this po, ang lang naman po, limitation po is may identified po tayong mandatory members, 7 po sila. Bawal po tayong bumaba doon, pero pwede po tayong lumampas doon.
Okay po.
Since ang Project Monitoring Committee po is a committee and pwede kayong lumampas ang membership, basta within the identified members and pool lang po, pwede po kayong organize ng subcommittees. Either yung subcommittee po is cluster areas or specialties po ng project na i-monitor. You have the freedom naman po to form subcommittees para ma-address po yung kung area po ang issue nyo, subcommittees for this area, or kung yung project type naman po, subcommittees for specific project type po na puro specific technical lang po yung member doon. Did I answer your question po, ma'am?
Subcommittees within the PPMC po?
Yes po.
Itong subcommittees ay will compose of different members?
Pwede nyo pong i-mirror yung mandatory members po natin as members po ng subcommittee, and yung subcommittee po is pwede siyang mag-focus sa assigned po or purpose po nung subcommittee kung ba't siya na buo. Pero yung mandatory members po is dapat present pa rin po siya sa within the main committee.
Okay po. Okay po. Thank you po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Darren. So, yan, naklarify naman po natin yung concern. So, parang kumbaga, para po siyang special task force, kasi kung meron tayong certain sector na talagang kailangan ma-resolve yung mga issues dun sa projects na yun. So, ayan po, na-cover naman po natin yung provinces and we have another raised hand. So, please go ahead po from Pililla Rizal, Miss Joymi Vidane. Sige po, you can ask your question.
Good morning, sir. Follow-up question lang po, since nabanggit po ni Engineer Darrell na pwede tayo magdagdag ng main member para dun sa executive order natin para sa Project Monitoring Committee. So, kung may mandatory member po tayo, from the mandatory member po ba magagaling yung mga like chairman, vice chairman, sa mandatory lang po ba yung manggagaling? And then yung idadagdag natin na member, yung idadagdag po natin na member will be the literal na member lang po siya. Kumbaga sa mandatory lang po manggagaling yung chairman, vice chairman po, saka secretariat. Tama po ba?
Ma'am Joymi, regarding this, kung meron po kayong idadagdag na members, pwede nyo, ang lang naman po din, ang selection po ng additional members is same ng selection ng main members po. Pero once na na-organize po yung buong, yung sa executive order po, pag na-organize na siya lahat, members naman po sila lahat. Para pong yung main committee and subcommittee, naka-identify lang po yung level and role nila. Pero technically po, member naman po sila lahat.
Ma'am Joyme, nasagot po ba yung inyong tanong?
Sir Steven.
Ay, sige Sir Nonoy, wait lang po confirm lang po natin if okay na si Miss Joyme. Miss Joyme?
Po, sir. Rejoinder ko lang po doon. Yeah.
Sige po, para masagot din ni Sir Darrell. Sige po, Sir Nonoy, go ahead po.
Rejoinder ko lang doon kay yung sagot ni Sir Darrell. Actually, ang sinasabi po ng MC natin na regarding the mandatory members is yung requirement talaga is dapat present yung lahat para consider siya as valid LPMC. Now, pwedeng magdagdag yung LGU as additional members. Now, the question kung sino yung gagawing chairman, actually ang binibigyan po ng authority na mag-select ng chairman is the local chief executive from among the members. So technically, regardless kung mandatory member siya or additional member siya, pwede pa rin silang maging chairman, depende sa prerogative po ng local chief executive. So tendency, it might be a mandatory member or additional member na maging chairman, depende po sa discretion ng local chief executive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sir Nonoy. Sige po, and okay na rin naman po sa part ng Pililla Rizal kay Ms. Joyme. Sige po, so any more questions from the floor po na gusto pang mag-raise hand, or kung wala na naman po, we can answer the questions dun po sa ating question matrix na na-gather. Sige po, going once, going twice. Sige po, mukhang wala na pong question for on the floor or live question. So magbabasa na po tayo ng ating questions from the chat or from the chat box. So unahin po natin. Medyo hindi na lang po namin nasunod-sunod dito, but I think we captured all the questions dun po sa ating chat box. So first question, on the trainings attended, please clarify if all mandatory members should have attended an M&E training or at least one mandatory member has attended the training in order to get a score. So this is from DILG Central Office po yung question. So Ms. G, can you answer the question?
Yes po, Sir Kevin. Thank you po for the question. So based po sa ating guidelines, ang specified lang po na requirement po doon sa pag-attend sa trainings ay yung pong mga member po ng ating secretariat. So at least one member po. So hindi naman po specified kung ilan, and hindi rin po specifically required na yung mandatory member. So as long as part ng secretariat ng Lpmc ay naka-attend ng training, ay we will be considering po yung training na attendant na iyon. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jade. So yan, hopefully po na-clarify naman natin yung question on the trainings attended. So kahit po secretariat yung umattend, this is considered this one. So next question po natin from Calelon, Quezon. Good AM, paano po kaya ang for first quarter kung lapse na ang deadline date? So Ms. Jade?
Okay po, thank you po. So, ang question po is if nag-lapse po yung submission ng RPMES Form 1 para sa deadline po natin for the first quarter of the year. So, para po dito, if nakapag-submit po ang ating Lpmc ng kanilang RPMES Form 1 with transmittal po, indicating po yung date ng kanilang submission to PPMC if sila ay city or municipality, and to RPMC if sila ay province. We will consider po yung kanilang submission as long as may transmittal, pero partial points lang po if nag-exceed po sa ating deadline na within the first quarter. Yung full points po as shown po natin earlier during the presentation will only be given if within the deadline po. Pero if mag-lapse po yung kanilang submission ng form, they can still submit po sa kanilang entry for the SOLPMC as long as may transmittal. And we will give po yung corresponding partial points na 2 for that form. So,
Thank you, Ms. G. Sige, so ayun po, again, to summarize po, we will give partial points dun po sa mga, since as I've mentioned nga naman niya po, kung halimbawa ngayon lang talaga natin nakita yung information na yun and nag-lapse na yung ating deadline, at end, parang pahabol na lang po yung submission, we will give partial points. Pero of course, ito naman nga po ay matagal na rin natin ina-advocate and hopefully dun po sa mga activated and functional LPMCs ay quarterly nakakapag-submit dun sa next level local project monitoring. So yun po yung sa question na yun. Our third question, inquiry. Do we have a single point of contact to handle our inquiries and concerns after this session po? So siguro ako na po ang sasagot, doon po sa nilagay naming, ilalagay din nating email. You can contact us through the PMED email or the Project Monitoring and Evaluation email at Calabarzon at neda.gov.ph. So, ang ating pong focal person, kung mapapansin niyo po, mostly si Ms. Jid ang sumasagot ng ating questions regarding this matter. So, si Ms. Jid po yung ating focal person for this activity. And you may address your emails to her doon po sa ating email. Ito po, nilagay na po ni Ms. Jig yung ating yung email address ng aming division doon sa ating chat box. Pa-email na lang po dyan, and kung gusto niyo pong ma-call yung attention ni Ms. Jig, pwede pong ilagay ninyo sa subject ay SOLPMC inquiry para po madali namin mabibigay kay Ms. Jig yung inyong concern. And yun po for that question. That was from Tanza Cavite. Next pong question from Carmona MPDC. So ito po yung question. Wala po ba tayong formal training and seminars kung paano dapat sagutan yung mga monitoring forms at kung paano mag-formulate ng monitoring plans? Paano kami magkakaroon ng training, ng monitoring kung puro orientation lang naman ang kinoconduct natin? Thanks. So siguro po, Sir Walter, would you like to answer? Sige po.
Sige, tama si Ma'am dun sa kanyang tanong, mas maganda nga may hands-on. Ang suggestion ko dito is that yung per province mag-generate ang provincial project monitoring committee secretariat, specifically ang TPDO office. Kung sino yung mga LGUs na gusto magkaroon ng hands-on training, gather them, then we will provide the training on how to fill up the forms jointly with the province, kasi na rin po, well-versed na rin po mga provincial natin sa pag-accomplish ng mga forms. Para po mas then kung may mga iba po tayong concerns regarding sa mga imo-monitor natin projects, at least alam din po ng ating mga taga-provincial PPMC. Yun po, kaya po yung ang suggestion ko, with the 5 provinces here, yung mga PPDOs, please encourage your respective local project monitoring committees na mag-submit ng request sa inyo kung gusto magkaroon ng training. Then we can jointly conduct the training, province and the at yung RPMC secretariat.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So again, yun po, we are requesting the provincial project monitoring committees na hikayatin natin, or let's conduct a survey dun sa ating mga LPMC, sino ba yung mga gusto at sino yung mga may kailangan pa ng training regarding po sa ating RPMES. Although 2016 pa naman nga po natin ginagawa ito, and 2016 side by side we were the NEDA Region 4A and the Regional Project Monitoring Committee was conducting or were conducting various orientations and trainings when it comes to the operationalization of the RPMES or yung ating mga local project monitoring committees. But of course, kami po ay ready laging tumulong, ready to assist. So yun nga po, para din ma-consolidate natin, so parang mangyayari po natin ay let's say ay provincial training. So one for Cavite, one for Batangas. Basta ma-consolidate po natin kung sino-sino yung ating mga local project monitoring committees who needs assistance when it comes to fully functionalized po natin yung ma-fully functional yung ating mga LPMC. So thank you po. Thank you, Sir Walter. Next po natin question from PPD or Rizal. So meron bang limit ang project amount to be monitored? So parang meron daw po bang ceiling yung ating mga projects, yung total amount? Sige po. Sir Walter?
Yung sa RPMC, ang ano is we let the local PMC to decide kung ano yung projects na sasama sa kanilang monitoring list for desk monitoring at yung field monitoring. Pero ang bottom line nito, dapat siya ay nasa AIP, or we also encourage you to monitor yung mga big ticket projects being implemented by the national government agencies. Kasi ito po yung gusto talaga naming makita kung ano talagang nangyayari sa baba, ma-implement ibang agencies. Para for me, ang ano is yung kung mga local projects na implemented by the LGUs, you have all the control to implement the project efficiently and effectively. Pero yung kailangan din po natin samahan ng mga national government implemented projects, kasi para po makita namin kung talagang ginagawa ng mga regional line agencies natin ng tama yung mga proyekto, at kung may problema naman po, doon po namin kayo gusto talaga tulungan sa RPMC. And bottom line, it's up to you to identify which projects for your local government units is important and vital. Thank you.
Thank you po, Sir Walter. So again, yun po, up to the local government units or yung ating provincial. Kasi ang maganda din po dito, let's say si province, pwede siyang mag-set kung alin yung kanyang imo-monitor, and then pwede din siya magpatulong dun sa ating mga local project monitoring committees na yung gantong amount, baka pwedeng kayo na yung mag-monitor. So ito po ay kumbaga tulong-tulong natin gagawin, and more of parang division of labor din sa ating amount. Parang ganun po. Sige po. For the next question from Lucena City. Question: is an LGU required to participate in this LPMC search if the current monitoring council is inactive or non-functioning? Thanks. So yan po yung ating question. Sir Walter or Jeet, gusto niyo pong sagutin?
Sige, ako na. Basically, kailangan maging functional muna siya bago siya mag-join ng search na to. Kasi yung first item is yung functionality ng LPMC. Gid, can you please elaborate kung meron pa? Pero yun nga sa akin, parang siya yung first step to be as eligibility criterion is dapat functional siya.
Yes po, Sir Walter. So tama po yun. Yung ating qualification po, first for provinces, para po ma-qualify to join the search, kailangan meron silang EO na stating yung regarding sa organization nila as a provincial project monitoring committee. So part po ito ng ating guidelines. So they need to have an organized PMC para po maka-join sa search. Pero for our cities and municipalities po, yung atin pong guidelines ay wala pong specify na parang restriction na kailangan ay organized po yung LPMC to be qualified for the cities and municipalities. They can join po if wala po silang available na executive order on their formation of the committee. Pero ang magiging consequence po nito sa ating evaluation criteria is hindi po nila makukuha yung organization, yung corresponding score for the organization criteria, which is medyo malaki po, so 15 points. So, which means po na meron pa rin pong advantage if yung ating mga sumasali sa search is organized na po. Pero sa bottom line po, wala naman po kumipigil dun sa cities or municipalities na hindi pa po nagkakaroon ng EO to join po yung search. Pero for the provinces, this is a requirement po na meron po silang executive order as an organized provincial PMC. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jeet. So, yun po ating bottom line. So, provincial required po, and at the municipal or city, hindi pa po siya required. But of course, siguro po ang ano din dito, like, baka po mahirapan tayo kung hindi naman functional yung LPMC. So, wala din po tayong masasubmit na requirement. So, of course, we want our LPMCs to be functional. So, yun po. So, next po, next question. Good morning. How do we score or rate unsigned reports but submitted on time and reports that are signed but submitted beyond the set deadline. Thank you. So, Ms. Jean, how do we score these reports?
Yes po. So, let me check lang po. So, dalawa po yung ating question. So, how do we score po yung, sorry po, pwede po bang pakiulit po?
Sige, Ms.
Yung
Jean,
pong
ito.
signed.
So parang yung scenario natin is pag paano i-score yung on time nag-submit pero walang signature yung report.
So for the first one po, based sa ating enhanced guidelines po kasi kailangan po masatisfy nung ating mga sinasubmit na documentary requirement yung ating conditions po doon sa ating Annex B ng guidelines. So isa doon for the RPMES forms, kailangan, ang condition is it should be approved and signed. So if it is not approved and signed and submitted po siya, ay hindi po siya mabibigyan ng correspondence scores. So if to be considered po, kailangan po ay approved po yung form.
So kumbaga basically kahit on time yan, kung hindi naman yan signed or approved, hindi siya mako-consider. So doon naman sa next question, parang ito yung isang question kanina, no, na signed na yung document pero lampas na siya sa deadline sinubmit. So ito yung parang partial points, tama ba?
Tama, Sir Kevin. So if ito po ay yung RPMES forms 5 and 6, so ang ating prescribed deadline po dito is a month after the reference quarter po ng reporting period. So para po ma-achieve natin yung full points for the corresponding submission ng forms, ay kailangan within the prescribed deadline po na ito. So i-flash ko rin po yung specific timeline. Ayan po. So if yung ating submission po is beyond na po ng ating prescribed deadlines, you can still submit this po as long as it is signed and as long as meron po tayong proof of transmittal. Pero ang maibibigay na lamang po namin points po for this ay partial points of 2 for each of the submission.
Thank you, Ms. Jid. So ayun po, kung naman po you can go beyond the deadline, basta po sign and approve, kaya lang po partial points na yung ating score. So that's for that question. So next question po natin, the question is from PPD Orizal. Paano po kung walang PSS? Wala na bang points yun? So ano po ba ang treatment kung walang PSS ang Lpmc? Sige, Ms. G.
Thank you po, Sir Kevin. So as mentioned po, yung atin pong pag-conduct ng problem-solving session sa ating current guidelines ay part po ng ating premium points. So if wala po tayong na-conduct na problem-solving session, unfortunately, hindi po tayo mabibigyan ng premium points.
Sige, thank you, Ms. Jean. So siguro po as a refresher po sa ating lahat, yung pong ating PSS or the problem solving session ay kinoconduct ng mga local project monitoring committees to resolve specific project issues or project concerns. So since by the nature of the activity itself, ang problem solving session nga po kasi as need arises. So kumbaga hindi naman siya pwede natin sabihin regular activity. So doon po sa sense na yon, more of talagang premium points lang yung ating kayang ibigay when it comes to PSS. So yun po. So kung walang PSS, walang points. But of course, this is a premium for dun sa mga Lpmc na makakapag-conduct ng problem solving session. So yun po. Next question po natin from General Trias. Lahat po ba ng PPA sa AIP kasama sa monitoring or mga infra projects lang? So, Ms. Jade or Sir Walter, would you like to answer?
Sige. Sana ang ideal na kasama sa AIP, pero ang ano natin is realistically hindi natin kayang i-monitor yon kung isasama natin even desk monitoring. Kasi baka mahirapan din plus lalagyan pa natin ng mga projects being implemented by the regional line agencies. As I mentioned earlier, ang suggestion namin, kung ano yung mga priority projects nyo yung mga big ticket projects yun, and makikita naman ito kung alin yung matataas, malalaki yung cost, pagtaas ang cost ng projects, yun ang ating pagtuunan ng pansin. Po. Then may criteria na din naman kanina na ipinakita si Ms. Gid on the number of projects to be monitored. Pero ideally nga, sabi ko, if you can do it na lahat na nasa AIP, even if you can monitor it, plus with the other projects ng mga regional agencies, it's mas maganda po yun. Pero on practicality side, medyo mahirap pong gawin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So, yun nga po So, hindi naman kailangan projects lang since talagang gusto din po nating makita all sectors ay represented and of course kung talagang high impact yung projects, priority po talaga siya po. So, but of course, tama po Sir Walter, practicality, kailangan po nating maging realistic din na kung ano lang yung kaya natin i-monitor and as you've observed naman niya po, may numbers na binigay sa
Kevin.
Thank you, Sir Walter.
Kevin.
Sige, sir, go ahead.
Share ko lang, like sa RPMC, there are thousands of projects being implemented by the regional line agencies po natin. Pero ang minomonitor lang po na Regional Project Monitoring Committee, yung mga big ticket projects, less than 100 po to nasa list namin na to, then ina-update from time to time. Kasi hindi nga po namin talaga kayang i-monitor. Then, yun nga pong ganun mga ibang projects na medyo maliliit as in mga 50 million o kasi ng DPWH, hindi na po yung pumapasok sa radar ng RPMC. At yun po ang gusto naming ilagay nyo sa sa listahan na projects to be monitored in a particular LGU. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So tama po kumbaga nga po tayo ay isang malaking layers ng committee and ang gusto po natin kumbaga ay at the higher level, yung po mga high impact projects. So pag po pababa tayo ng pababa up to the local level, mas lilit yung scope and dun nyo po matutulungan ang ating monitoring committees na makakapag-focus din kayo dun sa mga smaller scale projects na at your level kaya ninyong tutukan and tulungan ma-facilitate yung pag-i-implement. Ay, sige po, may nag-raise po tayo ng hand. Sir Frisco, sige po, go ahead, sir. Ano po yung question mo?
Hello, magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Go ahead, sir. Sige po, loud and clear.
Sir, tanong ko lang po, allowed po ba na ang LPMC ay i-monitor din even the national funded projects?
Sir, mas magusto nga namin yun na i-monitor nyo yung mga, lalo na yung mga ini-implement ng district offices ng mga iba't ibang regional agencies.
Kagaya po ng mga DPWH projects.
Mga nasa DEO.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Kaya yung pambalanse sa baba sa kanila.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So yun po, tama po kasi tulong po tayo kasi halimbawa po, let's say, isang locality lang yung bypass road, although priority po ito namin at the regional level since siya ay bypass or diversion road projects. But of course, malaking tulong po kung yung mismong pinag-i-implementan yung ating local project monitoring committee, yung LGU, ay talagang masisilip din or makakatulong maka-assist din sa facilitation ng pagmamonitor ng project. So thank you, Sir Frisco.
Okay, thank you rin po. Thank you po.
Next po natin, dito po sa ating list, sorry, pataas lang po ako. Natin yung kasunod. Ayan po, so from the LGU of Tanza. So ang question po is, how do we identify newly devolved projects from other projects? So siguro po, we will seek assistance from our partners from DBM. Sino po? Nandito na po ba si Arjun? Ayan, si Mr. Jen na lang po. Mr. Jen, ask po ito po yung question natin. How do we identify newly devolved projects from other projects?
Hello, good afternoon. As mentioned by Sir Walter, siguro yung mga big tickets na NGA projects natin. Pero parang naalala ko last time na parang nagpo-provide tayo ng list ng mga projects na i-monitor ng ating mga LPMCs. So aside from the national government projects, as mentioned din by Sir Walter, edi yung mga not only those parang mga capitalized investment or mga infra projects natin, but also yung mga projects po na sa palagay ng LGU ay dapat ding i-monitor. Yun lang po.
Sige po, Ms. Rojen. Sige po, so siguro po in addition din dun sa ating newly devolved project, siguro po, since the Committee on Devolution at the regional level, meron naman po tayong mga committee, and of course, we also have the devolution transition plans. I think mas magiging clear po sa atin once matapos na po ito or ini-implement na yung ating
Try pa po ulit, Sir Kevin.
mic test.
Okay na po.
Ayan, sige po, sorry po, talagang medyo intermittent po yung or unstable yung ating internet dito sa office. But in addition po dun sa na-mention ni Ms. Rojen, pwede po nating gamiting basis yung ating devolution transition plan, since ito naman po ay ini-implement ng ating Committee on Devolution at the regional level, and hopefully with these plans, ma-identify po natin or ma-specify natin ano-ano po ba talaga yung newly devolved projects, and yun po yung pwede nating antabayanan or maging part ng listahan ng ating LPMCs. Sige po, thank you po. Sige po, Sir Nono, you're raising your hand. Sige, sir.
Idadagdag ko lang po, Sir Kevin, for the guidance din po ng ating mga LPMC. Ang ating pong implementing rules and regulations ng EU 138 sa Annex A niya, nakalagay po doon yung mga category of projects, PPAs na devolved to the LGUs. Local code naman talaga yan eh. But as to the specifics, nandun po yung mga listahan ng mga projects, province, municipio, and to the barangays. So maganda pong guide po yun ng ating mga LPMC, and you can access that document sa website po ng ating I think sa DBM and DILG. Yung IRR po ng EU 138.
Additional reference po ng GUD or DILG, and doon po naman pala yung ating IRR. And siguro po mas madali pa nga kasi kita natin doon po yung list kung ano po yung mga. Next naman po nating question from TPDO Rizal po ulit ito. For the work and financial plan, so Ms. Jid, tama ba? Meron na tayo nito? Ano? Sige, Ms. Jid.
Okay po. Sir Kevin, so, current guidelines, wala po tayong provided na template for the annual work and financial plan. So, ang basis lang po natin for now is kailangan po, let me check lang po yung ating plan po yung ating activities na na-approve po by the PNC chairperson. So ito po ay dapat mag-provide ng basis for the fund allocation ng ating operating requirements. So yun lang po yung current specifics po doon sa ating guidelines. So wala pa po tayong template for that.
Sige, thank you, Ms. Jid. So I think siguro po hindi naman siya specifically ganun ka-hirap i-devise yung form, but basically tama yung pong basic nating requirement our activity, of course, yung corresponding schedule, and as well as yung ating financial budget for the activity. So siguro po, in the future, we could further enhance the guidelines. Talagang gagawa na po yung secretariat ng RPMC to provide a work and financial plan template. So siguro po, we are taking note of this. Thank you po. Thank you, Ms. Jid. Sige po, so for our next question, excuse me po, from Ms. Melita Liberito Acero, all infra projects po ba will be monitored regardless ng project cost? So siguro po I think nasagot na naman ito earlier, same po nung concern ni Sir Walter, or no, sorry, not ni Sir Walter, nung pong I think it was PPD o Rizal, same po no. Same concern yun. And as answered po by Sir Walter, we leave to the LGUs kung ano po yung inyong course. Siguro po dun when it comes to set ng criteria, ano po ba sa tingin ninyo yung high impact, ano yung malaki yung beneficial ba po kung baka mamaya waiting shed lang. So I don't think kailangan sama ito sa priority list ng ating mga local government units and of course ng ating LPMCs. So hopefully that answers that question. Next po natin from LGU Katanawan. Sa mandatory members po, dapat po ba approved ng LDC ang i-appoint or it's up to the LCE kung sino? So Sir Darrell, tama ba? Nasagot na rin to earlier.
Hello po. Sir Kevin, na-discuss na to kanina. Parang yung answer naman is na po. Siya ng LDC, yung i-appoint ng LCE. Hindi siya technically approved, pero nominated ng LDC.
Okay, sige po. So, ayun po. Hopefully that answers po again the question. Ayun po. Sige po. Okay na po. Thank you po from Katanawan. Next po natin. Ito po, suggestion. Sana mandatory ito sa lahat ng LGU kasi baka ilan lang ang magpa-participate. So again, yun nga po din yung ating main pagkakaroon ng local project monitoring committee and monitoring as a function has been, this is simply a way po. Talagang nire-require na naman po yung ating LGUs to have a monitoring arm or a monitoring committee. But of course, this is just a way to help in assisting or facilitating na ma-activate or maging fully functional yung ating mga local government units project monitoring committees. So yun po.
Kevin?
Ay, sige Sir Walter.
Yung i-contextualize ko lang, yung ginagawa natin na search sa ganito, this is to incentivize yung mga LGUs nga na parang ating yayain sila na maging functional, pero not to penalize them. Kaya nga natin is ina-award natin sila. And this is in support dun sa, as I mentioned earlier, sa EO 93, saka doon sa dalawang memoranda na inisyue ng DILG in 2004 and 2019. Then ito pa, this is going to, as also mentioned, na gusto na natin in the near future ay maging part na rin siya ng SGLG, ng mga LGUs. Kaya ang ano natin dito is parang inihahanda natin yung mga LGUs para in case na dumating na maging criteria na rin sa SGLG itong functional LPMC ay ready na po sila. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So tama po parang we are working towards that and hopefully po, tingnan natin in the future. Baka nga po ma-include na siya dun sa ating SGLG. So next question po, can the LGU organize training for LPMC members? Sir Walter or Ms. Jeep?
Yes, oo. Pwede silang mag-organize yung LPMC. They can request from NEDA, sa amin. They can, pero dapat una nila kasi may mga provincial PMCs naman po natin ay capable na to conduct these trainings on monitoring and evaluation. Yun po isang first source nila ng training. Then sunod yung sa amin, sa RPMC, Secretariat. Then kung may budget po kayo, you can also hire may mga yung accredited trainers natin. May mga nasa DAP po, Development Academy of the Philippines, saka meron pa po ibang mga consultancy firms. At meron din po yung ang mga SUs, ang academe, like ang alam ko meron ang DLSU on monitoring and evaluation na short courses. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So yun po, pwede naman nga pong kayo and then you can find resource persons to provide you the training and that would be counted. Sige po, so next po, rejoinder on trainings, do the certificates refer to individual member LPMC? So I think ito po naman ay nasagot na natin kanina na not necessarily po ay members, pwede din pong secretariat. So yun po yung ating question on the certificate. Pag nag-conduct si province ng training ng sabay-sabay for the 3 LGUs, ano daw po ba ang pag-i-score?
Okay, sir. Criteria po kasi ang is yung attendance po ng ating mga LGs to training. So it doesn't matter po kung same po yung training na na-attendant po nila as long as ng particular M&E trainings, i-consider po natin yun. Hello? Sound check po.
Recording in
provide
progress.
funds for the LPMC like gasoline expenses. So, Sir Walter?
Yes, yun ang sagot. Kasi may mga LGUs na sa work and financial plan may budget talaga sila. And it should be kasi 'di ba Sir Darrell, allowed naman to na ang LGU ay kaya nga may ordinance And in the creation of the LPMC, dapat nandun yung na magpo-provide ng necessary budget for it to effectively function.
Hello pa, Sir Walter, gaya nga po nung nasabi nyo, kung kasama to sa work financial plan po nila is at least may basis po sila para i-utilize yung fund sa ganong purpose po.
Thank you, Sir Darrell, Sir Walter. So tama po So as long as maiba-budget or talaga mag-allocate sa LGU, pwede pong source talaga ay yung ating pwedeng kumuha ng financial support ang ating LPMC sa ating mga LGUs. Sir Nonoy, you have an additional po?
Yeah, Sir Kevin. Idagdag ko lang dyan kasi inantay ko talaga yung question na yun. Idagdag ko dun as siguro an input. Pwede kaya nating suggestion for the future, kung may enhancement sa premium, merong score merong logistical support talaga yung ating mga LGU sa ating mga LPMC as part of their functionality and may power talaga yung ating mga LPMC, lalong-lalo na may mga CSO tayo, mga NGO members na volunteers ito Kahit per time lang sana honorarium nila for that matter. Kasi yung legal basis po is as long as may EO, then it is back up kung mayroon siyang appropriation in the either annual budget or supplemental budget ni LGU, then that will serve as the basis. So kailangan lang talaga meron tayong logistical support sa LPMC para magawa nila yung kanilang M&E functions. Kasi remember, iikot yan sila, lalo na may field monitoring visit sila, it requires transportation and yung time ng ating mga NGO, mga CSO, nabubuhos doon, di ba? So, I think it is high time na bigyan din natin ng premium yung effort ng ating mga LPMC, and of course may corresponding score siya sa ating sa scoring natin as one of the premium, yung support ng ating mga local government units sa ating LPMC.
Thank you, Sir Nonoy. Siguro po, Sir Walter, would you like to provide
Okay,
feedback?
let's take note of that and we discuss with the with DILG sa evaluation committee. Yung sa DILG, possibly we can have a survey kung doon sa functional na yun ay ilan ang may ang budget supported ng mga ng mga LGUs. Then baka we can discuss muna with the DILG kung paano nga ma-operationalize yung sinasabi ni Sir na talaga naman kailangan ng budget. Lahat naman ng galaw natin kailangan may budget. Merienda, kahit nga yung merienda, yung honoraria, parang baka pro bono pa iba. Pero yung mga logistics nga natin na dapat may dedicated source tayo ng budget, like sa fuel, ng food ng mga members para at least hindi tayo constrained na kung kailan lang tayo maabutan ng sa office of the mayor na is parang lang seasonal yung natin, kung kailan lang may lobby saka lang tayo magpa-function. We can discuss this with the group of Sir Darrell kung paano baka pwede magkaroon na regional circular na sa mag-issue na parang enjoin na with yung ordinance talagang gagawin is fully supported by by a budget dedicated for the functions of the Lpmc. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Walter. Sige po. So, ayan po, tatrabahuin po natin at the Regional Project Monitoring Committee, hopefully, para din po ma-encourage yung LGUs talaga magbigay ng budget sa ating Lpmc. Sige po, Ma'am Flor Delisa, nag-raise po kayo ng hand. Go ahead
Yes po. Tatanong ko lang po, kung yung mga best practices po ba, may mga points po yun sa pagpili ng sa search?
Sige, Ma'am. Miss Jean, can we answer yung question?
Okay po, thank you, Sir Kevin. So, specifically on best practices, wala pa siya sa guidelines, pero yung ating enhancement sa guidelines, yung pag-identify ng ating mga premium na binibigyan ng mga indicators na binibigyan ng premium, yung basis po natin doon ay yung mga best practices ng mga LPMCs na pinapresent nila sa atin during our validation activities. So, if we see po na, for example po yung ating bago po na indicator for 2023, yung inclusion po ng automated na project monitoring system. So, ang basis po nun is yung ating observation during the 2022 search na may mga PMCs po tayo na capable na po in developing yung ating mga automated systems.
Thank you, Miss Jean.
Okay po.
Miss Hayan, sige po. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you po, thank you.
Thank you po. So, yun po, kumbaga nga, we always reiterate, we always enhance yung ating pong guidelines para po may incorporate natin as premium points yung ating na-observe na best practices and pwede din gawing or ma-implement din ng ating other LPMCs. So, to continue po for our questions, is it possible po na ang RPMC na lang ang mag-conduct ng training? So, ayun po, as we've answered earlier kanina, pwede pong resource person ng RPMC, and other than that, if time permits and if kaya po ng work plan ng RPMC, meron po talagang mga trainings or technical assistances na pinaprovide ang RPMC. So yun po for that question. Sige po, from Candelaria, Ms. Dayan. Sige po, go ahead with your question.
Hi, good morning po. Baka po na-miss ko lang kanina. Ask ko lang po kung how we can get po yung electronic copy of the search survey form kung gusto po namin sumali dun sa search.
Ay, sige ma'am. Ms. Jid, nandun na ba siya sa reference material sa atin?
Apo, Sir Kevin. So yung ating pong survey form ay hindi pa po natin isinama sa ating reference material. So ipapadala po natin ito sa ating mga LGUs during our call for nomination on January 17 to 2023 pa po. So ang available pa lang po for our reference ay yung ating enhanced guidelines. Provided po siya sa ating meeting form. So kindly wait po para doon sa ating advice para doon sa dissemination ng ating electronic copy ng survey. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jid. So, ayun po, Ms. Dayan. So, basically po, since we are still readying yung ating mga local project monitoring committees to be ready for the search, to be ready for the evaluation, ano po muna, hihinugin natin, kumbaga, yung ating po mga LPMCs bago tayo mag-call for the search next year in January. So, that's po for that question. So, wala naman po nag-raise ng hand. We continue reading po from our chat box submissions. So next po, ito are all projects in the 20% development fund or AIP included, or do we enroll specific projects only? So guys, ito po, nasagot na rin naman po ito kanina. Again po, we leave yung prioritization kasi nga po, let's be realistic, hindi po natin talaga kayang i-monitor lahat ng projects, but we can focus or we can prioritize nga po kung ano-ano yung i-monitor na projects ng ating mga LPMCs. Next question po. Ito po, ano na po status ng CPMS? Hindi po ba pwede na iyon na lang po ang gamitin na automated system for monitoring? So siguro po, Sir Richard, would you like to provide some status from the CPMS? So brief info lang po muna dun sa ating other participants. Yung pong CPMS is the Calabarzon Project Monitoring System na ini-implement po at the regional level, and medyo nagkaroon lang po kami ng problema on the technical side, so na-down po yung aming system. So sige Sir Richard.
Oo, salamat Kevin. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. So nasabi nga ni Kevin na nag-down yung ating CPMS. Ito yung ating online regional project monitoring system ng Calabarzon. And regarding po sa tanong ni ma'am, kung pwede ba daw na sa CPMS na lang din yung gamitin ng mga LGUs or LPMCs dito sa pag-enroll ng mga projects nila. Ngayon po kasi, ang track po kasi nitong aming CPMS or ng mga online project monitoring systems ng bawat region ay ma-harmonize sila. Ma-harmonize yung mga online project monitoring systems ng region. Ngayon po, since i-harmonize to ng bawat region, dati po kasi ay nagsasubmit nga naman ang mga probinsya ng mga updates dito sa CPMS. But we really highly encourage po na magkaroon po ng kanilang online project monitoring systems or automated systems ang ating mga LPMCs. Dahil meron po tayong mga respective intricacies ng ating mga projects, mas maganda po na yung ating mga tinututukang project sa ating mga nasasakupan ay atin pong maisasama doon po sa ating mga respective online systems. Kaya nga po ang ginawa namin, ito po ay magiging premium points pagdating po dun sa search, para at least po ay ma-encourage po itong ating mga LPMCs to develop our own automated systems. And ito naman po ay ginagawa na. Actually, may mga LPMCs na po na may mga kanila na mga project monitoring systems. So what we can do on our side naman po ay pwede naman din po kaming mag-refer po ng mga LGUs kung sino po yung mga meron na, para kahit pa paano ay makapag-benchmark po sila kung paano po nila yung ginawa, para at least po ay mas matutukan po natin yung ating mga proyekto sa ating nasasakupan. Salamat po.
Thank you, Sir Richard. So yun po yung ating update dun sa ating CPMS or the Calabarzon Project Monitoring System. So, sorry, medyo na-lost lang po ako dito sa pag-scroll po din sa questions. Wait lang po. Ayan, ito po. Siguro po si Sir Darrell makakasagot nito. Ang question po ay, allowed po ba na ang chairman ng LPMC is also member of the technical working group? Sir Darrell?
Hello po, Sir Kevin.
Sir, bali yung question po is, allowed po ba na ang chairman ng LPMC is also a member of the technical working group?
Allowed naman po siya, sir. Parang wala naman po tayong parang wala tayong negative list. May criteria po tayong dapat i-comply pero wala naman po tayong distinction sa mga hindi po allowed. Basta na-meet niya po yung criteria, pwede naman po siya.
Okay po, sir. Tsaka basically, sir, parang wala naman pong conflict of interest kasi technically nagtutulungan lang naman din po yung kung magme-member yung chair dun sa ating technical working group.
Yes
parang
po,
kumbaga
parang
magpro-provide lang siya ng insight, parang gano'n.
Wala po siyang parang area ng conflict unlike sa procurement. and implementation po.
Okay po. Sige po. Thank you, Sir Darrell. So, yun po. Hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you po sa
Next.
sagot. Thank you po sa sagot.
Ayan, thank you, Sir Prisco. Thank you po.
Okay po.
Next po natin, meron po ba kayong list ng trainings or seminars na kinoconduct para ma-identify namin which of those are we going to request or needed? Sige po, Sir Walter, would you like to answer? Hi sir, nakamute pa po kayo.
Sige, Kevin, pakiano nga ulit? Anong question?
Ang question sir ay, meron ba kayong list ng trainings or seminars na kinoconduct para ma-identify namin which of those are we going to request or needed?
Okay. Yung sa list ng sa NEDA na binibigay namin sa basically yung sa basic MNE lang saka yung RPMES orientation. Kasi ito lang naman yung talagang kailangan Okay. Okay na? Kebs, okay na ako?
Okay na sir, okay na po.
Okay. Sige, yung sa list of trainings, tulad ng binibigay namin sa mga provinces, basically ito lang yung sa RPMES orientation, what is RPMES, then yung pangalawa yung sa yung basic MNE training, but we can also provide trainings related to project development project sa logical framework formulation. Yun lang muna naman, din lang naman ang tingin namin na kailangan ng mga and konting trainings on results based monitoring.
Thank you, Sir Walter. So, yun po yung basic na trainings na kayang provide ng NEDA Region 4. Siguro po, we can part of po ng references. Nakita niyo naman po kanina may link na tayo. Siguro po we could just add another slide doon sa ating PowerPoint presentation para lang po ma-list doon kung ano-ano po yung trainings or seminars that the Regional Project Monitoring Committee can provide. Sige po. We have a raised hand from San Pablo po. Ms. Marivic, please go ahead po.
Hello. Hello sir. Ask ko lang po dun sa composition po nung aming committee. Sir, kasi yung chairperson namin, yung planning coordinator namin. Tapos yung secretariat, kami pa rin sa City Planning and Development Office. Okay lang ba yun? Wala pong maging problema.
Thank you, ma'am. Sige po, Sir Walter. Would you like to answer the question? Hi, sir. Nakamute pa po kayo.
Can we refer that to DILG composition?
Sige po, Sir Walter. Sir Darrell, basically ang question po ni ma'am, the chair of the Lpmc is yung kanilang city coordinator. And ang secretariat po ng Lpmc ay yung ding city planning office. So meron daw po ba itong conflict or okay lang po ito? Sir Darrell?
Yes po, Sir Kevin. Bigay ko lang po yung overview. Ang pagiging secretariat po kasi ng mga PDC, yung mga PPDCs natin is identified po siya sa guidelines na sila talaga yung secretariat. Tapos yung definition naman po ng chairmanship is si LCE po ay pipili sa members ng PMCs. Wala naman pong exemption or limitation na hindi pwedeng mapili si PPDC pa rin. Kaya so far po is parang wala naman pong conflict. Pwede po siya if ganun po yung situation.
Thank you, Sir Darrell. So, Ms. Marivic, okay naman po.
Okay po. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you po. We got another raised hand from the LG of Katanawan, Ms. Melinda. Sige po, go ahead po.
Hello po, good morning po. Narinig po.
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear po. Go ahead po.
Lab lang po doon kay Ma'am Marivic, yung po sa technical working group, pwede po bang isama doon sa EO yung DWG coming from different offices like po ng engineering kasi sila po yung gumagawa mostly ng mga reports.
Sige po. Thank you, ma'am. Sir Darrell, could you respond po dun sa question?
Yes po. Ang question po is kung pwede pong isama ang engineering sa
Opo, parang sa... Opo, tapos parang nasa EO na daw po, sir.
Ang ano po kasi is hindi natin siya directly pwedeng isama or identify as engineering. Pero kung kasama po si engineering sa LDC, pwede po natin siyang ipanominate sa LDC para po mapick siya ni LCE.
What I mean sir is si engineer kasi kasama na siya sa member ng ng NPC. So yung po mga staff niya, sila po yung gumagawa ng mga reports. Pwede po ba namin silang sama as technical working groups?
Ano ko na lang din po ma'am, for the context po is maka-count po sila as additional members. Pwede naman po silang i-appoint. Pwede po silang wait lang po. Pwede po silang ma-select ni LCE as additional member po. Discretion po ng LCE po. Wait lang po.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Darrell. So, ayun po, clear naman po na parang yung LCE na yung mag-decide regarding those concerns. So, we have another raised hand from LGU Santa Teresita. Sige po, go ahead po with the question.
Sir Kevin, yung sa other members pala, discretion ng LDC, hindi LCE.
LDC. Sige po.
Correction lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Darrell. Sige po, nakaraisan po yung Santa Teresita. Go ahead po.
Sir, magandang tanghali po sa atin lahat. Sir, tanong lang po namin kung paano po kung ang project ay funded and implemented po ng province or national. Kasi kami po yung municipal. Ito po ba ay subject din po sa monitoring po ng aming project monitoring committee?
Thank you po, sir. Sir Walter, can we respond to the question?
Sir, opo, kung sa tingin nyo ay critical siya sa development nyo, bawang bypass road, ang dumasa kalahati ng inyong munisipyo, kailangan nyo po i-monitor yon. Kasi may impact po yun sa inyong development.
Paano po kung mga evacuation center, mga farm to market road po yan na ba kailangan din po ng aming mamamayan?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Kailangan po yung, lalo na yun nga po sabi ko kanina, mas magandang yung mga projects sa ganyan ng mga regional line agencies ay maisama nyo sa inyong monitoring. Para kayo nga po, as I earlier mentioned, kayo po yung parang pambalanse kung tama nga po yung ginagawa nila.
Yes po, sir. Sir, isa pa pong question, sir, samantalahin ko na. Sir, yung pong gagamitin po namin mga people's organization and non-government organization, ito po ba ay, pwede po ba namin bigyan to ng honorarium? Kasi ulit-ulit po namin silang gagamitin. Siyempre, ang iba po ay nagagaling pa sa malayo. May dalang sarili nila sasakyan. So, ang mga CSO pong ginagamit namin, kalimitan, yung pong President ng Tricycle Association, religious sector, sila po yung malalayo sa aming munisipyo. Ito po ba ay pwede po namin bigyan ng kaunting honorarium?
Yes, sir. Basta as per ordinance, kasama na may budget kayo ang Lpmc na ito yung paggagamitan, itemize yung like yung sa fuel, supplies, tapos honoraria.
Okay na ba? Kailangan may ordinance. So ordinance po ng local sanggunian?
Oo. Kasi budget ho yun eh. Para hindi yung hindi yung parang sabi ko nga kanina, hindi yung parang re-request lang lagi sa Office of the Mayor na at yung honoraria kailangan may specific po yun.
May ordinance na.
May ordinance nga po para sa budget. Para ma-operationalize ang budget.
Para every time, so yun ang basis natin. So hindi na po ba kailangan ng legal basis dito? Mga memorandum, din na po ba kailangan nyo? Mga legal basis from national law?
May ano naman siya, meron naman siya, Daryl, di ba? Kasi at
Hello,
na,
Sir Walter. Regarding po dito, if I may add, kaya po kaya po may work financial plan ang LPMCs para maisama sila sa AOPB ng LGU. Gawang kung may work financial po sila, nandun na po lahat ng expenses nila. Kanina po pinag-usapan lang natin is gasoline. Pwede po nilang ilagay yun sa work financial plan. Honorarium, pwede po nilang ilagay doon. Traveling expenses, mga conduct ng meetings and training. Lahat po ng activities na cover ng LPMC dapat po is nakalagay sa work financial plan. And yun naman po, yung work financial plan po is dapat ma-include sa annual operation AOPB ng LGU.
Isasama na sa budget.
Ma-ensure po natin siya na functional po ang LPMC natin, supported by, funded siya ng LGU.
Yun. So kasama sa budget dapat palagi.
So isasama na po sa budget yun, sa preparation po ng annual budget po ng municipality.
Ideally po, yes po.
Yes.
And ito naman po is regarding po dun sa may tinatanong po kayong basic. Ano naman po, para pong may basis naman po tayo, gawang ito po is pinapagawa na yung function po ng LPMCs parang devolved na sa LGU. Although hindi siya kasama nung latest devolution, para pong may executive order na ang function ng LPMC po is dapat is na co-conduct on LGU level. Kaya pwede po siyang dapat po is kasama siya sa AOPB ng LGU para po ma-ensure na may budget ang LPMC and functional po sila and ma-carry out po yung functions and responsibilities ng LPMCs. Yun lang po.
Kevin.
Thank you, Sir Daryl. Sige po, Sir Nonoy, do you have something to add?
Salamat po, salamat.
For the record, yung legal basis natin dito is under the local government code. Meron tayong local development council na inaatasan. Actually, sila yung inatasan na mag-monitor ng mga implementations ng projects at the LGU based on the local government code. However, merong monitoring arm. In particular, the LPMC as reinforced by yung issuance ng NEDA and issuance ng DILG. So this will be serve as a legal basis. As to the operationalization of its functionality, it will emanate doon sa executive order ng mayor or executive order ng local executive. And that executive order will be the basis now para legitimately sila yung recognized na LPMC, nandun yung functions, nandun yung authority nila. And in complementation to the logistical support, kailangan ng appropriations ordinance dahil hindi mapapunduhan yung work and financial plan pag walang appropriations ordinance. It's either from the annual budget ni LGU or sa kanilang supplemental budget na pinapasa po ng sanggunian. So yan po yung pinaka-legal basis as long as naka-line item doon yung operational expense intended for the LPMC. That includes transportation, kung meron man yun nga, pwede din for the per dime ng mga or honorarium ng mga members ng LPMC.
Thank you, Sir Nonoy. So ayun po, very clear naman po yun po yung ating magiging legal basis and magiging nating approach when it comes to funding, yung pong ating mga local project monitoring committee. So time check lang po our time is currently 12:08. So medyo overtime na po tayo dun sa ating agenda, which is we're supposed to close our meeting by 12. Pero siguro po we could just accommodate last 2 questions. And then for dun po sa ating other questions na hindi ma-accommodate and nandito na rin naman po sa chat box, so nanote na po natin yon. Pwede din po kayo mag-email. For participants with questions or comments not addressed during the open forum, please email the secretariat at ito po yung aming email address, pmed@calabarzon.nedo.gov.ph. So we could just answer your questions or queries dito sa aming email address since medyo ubos na po talaga yung ating oras for the open forum. So last 2 questions na po. Our next question, good morning po, regarding po sa scoring ng active LPMCs. Paano po kaya mabibigyan ng consideration yung katulad ng province namin na composed of 40 LPMCs? Lahat naman po ay may EO, kaya lang pagdating sa matrix of functionality, mahirap po sa amin na ma-achieve agad yung more than 50% this year. Lalo na ngayon at katatapos lang po ng election. May possibility na magkaroon ng reorganization yung ibang LPMCs. So, Ms. Jean, would you like to answer the question?
Yes po, Sir Kevin. Thank you. So, we understand din po yung concern po na na-raise po nila. So, ito pong indicator po na ito kasi is first time po natin i-implement next year. So, if we will look at the matrix po, medyo marami pong kailangang i-comply yung bawat LPMCs para ma-consider po as functional. So, siguro po, if I may suggest po, siguro pwede po namin itong i-forward to the evaluation committee members for possible discussion po siguro. And yung decision po, siguro po i-coordinate po namin sa ating mga LPMCs yung kung magkaroon po ng changes or considerations po with regards po on this new indicator. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Jean. So, ayun po, for consideration po ito ng ating SOLPMC Evaluation Committee. And we'll just provide an update sa ating LGUs or LPMCs. So last question na po natin. Ito po, hi, can we request for a list of the big ticket projects for reference? So siguro po, Sir Walter, is it okay if we provide yung, nasa newsletter din naman po ito, quarterly newsletter ng RDC, nandun po yung list, pwedeng isasama na lang po natin dun sa reference materials. Pero Sir Walter, if you have something.
Okay lang. Okay. Sige, let's provide the list.
Sige po. Thank you, Sir Walter. So yun po, isasama po namin yung, meron naman pong list ng major programs and projects being monitored by the RPMC. Sama po namin dun sa materials. So yun na po yung ating last question, and madami pa pong questions actually na pumasok, but in the interest of time po, our time is 12:12. So we are now at the end of our orientation. So as a closing, siguro po we officially close our orientation for the enhanced SOLPMC guidelines, and we would like to thank of course our partners with the DILG, DBM, and all the RPMC members present for this successful orientation. And of course, we would like to thank yung ating pong local government units and the local project monitoring committee members present in this orientation. And we hope by our search in 2023, more of you will join in our search for the outstanding local project monitoring committee. So maraming salamat po ulit sa lahat na nag-attend and sa ating mga RPMC members. Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maraming salamat po. Siguro po bago mag-close, bago lang po mag-out ang lahat, please accomplish po yung ating forum evaluation form. So ito po, currently being shared on the screen, and nandito po din siya sa ating chat. Nilagay po ni Ms. Jig yung link for the online evaluation form. So pasagot na lang po para mas ma-improve namin yung mga susunod naming activity when it comes to orientation. Kasi we need or we want your feedback when it comes to the conduct of such activities. And again, muli po maraming salamat po sa pag-participate and pag-attend sa ating Search for Outstanding Local Project Monitoring Committee Enhanced Guidelines Orientation. Thank you po ulit.
Thank you po.